All new at 9:30. Mistaken identity? A local man nabbed twice for holding up a bank, even though an employee swears he didn't do it.
She said, 100% that she's sure that I was not the guy, that I'm not the same person that robbed him.
So what's Stephen Talley doing still facing charges? It's a problem solver's investigation more bizarre than any before.
45-year-old Stephen Talley says he is living a nightmare. Arrested not once, but twice for the same bank robbery, even though the star witness in the case said he's not the guy.
Only investigative reporter Rob Lowe was in the courtroom when even the judge said prosecutors are unlikely to convict him. Rob joins us with this wild problem solver's investigation.
Stephen Talley, seen here on the far side, was arrested for 2 bank robberies based largely on surveillance video. As you'll see, it looks like the same guy in both robberies. So when Talley had an airtight alibi for the first robbery, both cases were dismissed. Talley figured that was the end of it. Boy, was he wrong. Surveillance video shows the robber walking into a U.S. bank on Colfax Avenue in May of 2014. Wearing a black baseball cap, the suspect demands money and quickly walks out, chased by a bank security guard. The two briefly wrestle outside before the officer loses his grip and the robber gets away. 4 months later in September, a man with similar features walks into the U.S. Bank on Colorado Boulevard. This time, he's wearing clear surgical gloves and hands the teller a note that he's armed with a .45 caliber handgun in his pocket. She gives him money and attempts to give him more, but he quickly walks out with the first wad of cash. 10 days later, an FBI task force arrests 45-year-old Stephen Talley after his ex-wife identifies him in the surveillance video from both holdups.
And they had a bunch of flashbang grenades underneath my vehicle that they remote detonated in my face. It was just like boom, 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 and I'm blinded basically. But he basically told me I was being arrested for 2 armed bank robberies and assaulting a police officer during a bank robbery. And I just said, like, you got the wrong guy. You guys are crazy. They said, so you like to with our, my brothers in blue. And all of a sudden, either at like the same time he said it, almost instantly, I'm getting beaten. He had an extendable baton, and it went like, whoosh, and literally said, don't excuse my language again, don't with the biggest gang in Denver, and boom, hits me right in the groin area. I have what's called a fractured penis. I didn't think you could even break a penis. They broke my 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rib on my right side of my fixed ribs. The guy that stood on my face cracked all my teeth on my left side, both upper and lower. And I also have tinnitus, which is a ringing in my ears.
Stephen Talley spent 2 months in jail until his defense attorney produced an airtight alibi for the first bank robbery.
Hi, Nicole. Steve Talley with Transamerica. How you doing today?
Recorded phone calls that were time-stamped show Talley was at his computer inside this Greenwood Village building selling financial investments for Transamerica at the time of the first bank robbery.
We were going to do a follow-up on our MLP, Energy and Income Fund.
This is Denver Detective Jeffrey Hart, the man who arrested Stephen Talley, the man who Talley says threatened him after both robbery cases were originally dismissed.
I'm going to throw your ass back in jail. We're going to refile. Him and his supervisor said that as well.
And about a year later, that's exactly what happened. Talley was rearrested at this homeless shelter where he was living at the time.
I had a family, I had a career, and I haven't seen my kids in like 17 months.
Now he was back in jail, this time just for the second robbery. Prosecutors insisted FBI facial recognition technology showed it wasn't Talley in the first bank robbery, but it was him in the second one.
It's just ridiculous. I knew it wasn't me. I mean, it has someone that's supposed to be 175 pounds. I'm 240. I'm almost 6'4".
More importantly, Talley's defense attorney noticed something the facial recognition technology fails to point out. Stephen Talley has a mole on his right cheek, something you don't see on the suspect, even with FBI enhancements. Have you ever been so happy to have a mole on your face?
Yeah, I've had this mole for a while.
And in fact, if they can miss a mole on a guy's face, I don't know how anyone can rely on this facial recognition technology.
Ben Hartford is Stephen Talley's attorney and says he's never had a client more wronged by the legal system.
He has struggled interminably to the point where he has been living on the street.
Hartford walked into Talley's preliminary hearing with a key witness, Deborah Hicks. She works at a church food bank, and on the day of the second robbery showed Talley had checked in on the sign-up list, likely around the same time the U.S. bank was being robbed. But her testimony was boring compared to Benita Shipp. She's the actual bank teller who was held up. A gag order prevents Benita Shipp from talking to us, but what she said inside that courtroom was probably the last thing the prosecutor expected to hear.
Their only witness at the bank comes in and says that she's 100% sure it's not me.
Positive because Benita Shipp says the bank robber wore thin surgical gloves, but Shipp says through those gloves, she saw strange markings on his hands. Like a scene out of the O.J. Simpson trial, Stephen Talley showed his hands in court, and Shipp testified Talley is the wrong guy.
If the marks don't fit, you must acquit.
Yeah, that was a surreal moment. I mean, it felt good that she said that. And I figured at that point they were just going to dismiss it because they didn't have a case. It was ridiculous.
The judge didn't dismiss the case, but he did order Talley released without having to post a bond, something even the prosecutor did not oppose.
Can I ask you, the judge did everything but dismiss this case. Do you think you've got the right guy?
You know, I think you should probably talk to Lynn Kimbrough, who is in our office, who deals with media. I don't talk directly to the media.
In a statement, the district attorney's office tells the FOX31 problem solvers the testimony at the preliminary hearing was a surprise to the prosecutor, Deputy District Attorney Joanna Coates. She will now have to assess the case in light of our burden of proof, and a decision will be made in a timely manner about whether to proceed or not.
What do you think the DA needs to do now?
Dismiss the case. I mean, they've got the wrong guy, not once, but twice.
We caught up with Stephen Talley the moment he was released as a free man for the second time, but with the second robbery charge still following his every step.
I have no money, I have no job, I don't have my kids, I have a little bit of my health, but yeah, I have to go back to the shelter.
Stephen Talley and his attorney accused Denver Police Detective Jeffrey Hart of retaliation. Hart received a discipline letter in his file after Talley's first arrest when Internal Affairs found Detective Hart didn't follow photo lineup procedures properly. Stephen Talley is due back in court January 28th when he's hoping prosecutors decide to dismiss the second case. Rob Lowe, Fox 31 Denver.
We will keep you posted
Yes,
for sure.
absolutely.
A